Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello, how's it going?
Hello. 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 Welcome to the Environmental Podcast. We are your hosts and co founders of Dandelion Branding, Court and Ob. And welcome. This is our podcast where we talk all about businesses and sustainability, and we interview different folks about their role in the transition to a more sustainable future. So today we are joined by Brian Sheng. Thank you so much for being here,
Super
Brian.
excited to be here and join the podcast.
Yeah.
Likewise, yes. So Brian is the CEO and co-founder of Aquaria, which is a very cool technology that produces clean drinking water out of thin air. Pretty much cool. So let's just jump into it. I guess I definitely want to hear all about the atmospheric water generator products, but before we jump into that, can you tell us a little bit about kind of what inspired you to start working with water?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, again, I want to say really happy to be here, excited to be a part of the environmental podcast. I actually see even our backgrounds is like color match to green colors, sustainability, thing. Uh,
On brand.
I think sustainability, I think it's become, well, over the past couple of years, a lot more people are focusing on sustainable transition. And we think about like green cities. We talk about everything from consumer products to urban development and everything in between. A couple of years ago, I was thinking about, okay, well, I've always been an entrepreneur, actually. This is not the first company I've started. And I really saw everyone focusing on talking about building, investing, and transitioning to like a more sustainable energy future. And that's actually, I think if we kind of sit here and imagine ourselves 10 years from now in 2034, I think it's fair to say that we'll be in a pretty energy abundant and sustainable future, right? We got like solar and wind and nuclear and all these other things, right?
Yeah, I got my fingers crossed big time on that one.
Amazing.
We have hope. Yes.
But what about our water, right? Like everyone's talking about energy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well,
People aren't talking about water enough yet.
It sounds like you have something to say about that too.
I mean, I'm with you. One of the folks that, we talk to and work with always says, water's the last thing you think about until you don't have any. And I think that pretty much aptly sums up what you're saying.
And actually, no, it's kind of crazy right now. At Aquaria right now, we're feeling a lot of inbound projects. Talking about it's the last thing you think of until it doesn't exist. It's crazy, but I think a lot of people think about running out of water as something that happens in like third world countries in Africa or something like that. Usually lately, a lot of America have been to Mexico or Mexico City, but that's a prime example of a metropolis of I think 20 some odd million people. They might run it out of water by summer, which is crazy. This summer, it's the weather patterns have been changing, and if rain doesn't come in the next, let's call it 30 days, they might be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Long story short, that's kind of like what took me on this path is realizing that actually we need to do a lot more about water. We need more sustainable and resilient forms of water supply. And what we're building at Aquaria is a new way to unlock that by harvesting the almost inexhaustible amount of water just in the atmosphere around us.
Very
so cool. Thanks for talking about it as a resilient option and not just a resource option that you're creating. I think I really resonate and appreciate that that's the way that you approach this, because it's one thing to be sustainable. It's another thing to talk about resilience and the ability to bounce back, and where water is concerned is especially important, I think.
And that's really where water, comes in, is that it's one of the most overlooked problems of climate change. We talk about sustainability, but there's also mitigation and resilience. And really, resilience is really a big problem here because, water has to be physically transported from where it's made or where it exists to where you consume it. So then it's like whenever something happens, whether that's a local contamination or there's a storm rolls in, it becomes, well, how can you make sure that your water options stay safe and that you always have consistent water despite whatever happens, and then thus you need a more resilient option.
So, can you tell us a little bit about how the product works?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I think we need to think about, which I think most people remember from 8th grade earth science, 7th grade earth science, is that there's actually a tremendous amount of water in the air. The Earth's natural hydrologic cycle recycles everything roughly every week or so, and so it's constantly getting replenished. So that's what I mean when I say the water in the air is almost nearly inexhaustible, even when you compare that with like how much water humans consume. So what we do is as well as efficient in harnessing this water, from the sky. So we've created, I'll go a little bit into depth here, but basically we've created a very energy efficient material that can conduct heat exchange and then produce this water. How it actually machine, and then out comes clean water.
Really cool. Now I think that it is time for our favorite part of the show. But before we jump into that, please do not forget to like and subscribe to the podcast so you will get a notification for every inspiring sustainability talk that we have. We are here the first and third Wednesday of every month with a new incredible guest, and Brian is one of them. Brian, tell us, what role do you feel like you and Aquaria are playing in this transition to a more sustainable future?
Please subscribe. That's number one. But what is my role in the sustainable transition? Okay. Well, here's a fact so I'm in California. I'm in San Francisco right now. In fact, it's actually Climate Week, right? So here's a fact that many people don't know. About a fifth of all electricity usage in California is for the movement of water, for the pumping, storage, movement across California's massive network of water. So basically, of course, it encompasses a lot of things, but it's all related to water. So, and then on top of that, we can also think about, all of the plastic waste associated with just single-use plastic bottles. So, that's the way I think about what we're doing at Aquaria is we are both a sustainability company, as well as a climate resilience company. We're building water sustainability, water security. And so, that's the role we play is that we're offering another option for us to get water. We have I don't know, a dozen different options for energy, but we really don't have any options except single-use plastic bottles for water. That's pretty much the only option we have next to your local municipal grid. Oh, I guess you have wells. That's another option for wells. But then that's also related because now wells are increasingly getting contaminated with PFAS and plastic, microplastics, and all sorts of things, right? So that's how I see what we're doing at Aquaria is we're both building water sustainability and water security as another option for, our most important resource.
I love all those words. Everything you just said. Thank you for what you're doing.
I think it's also you're making it accessible as well because I think like wells are not often accessible to everyone if you don't own land, but this unit is something that anybody could perhaps like purchase and implement in their life, especially you said that it could be run on solar power. So that seems like it's a really cool kind of option to folks who maybe don't have access to land or a permanent place. It seems like that is very accessible, which is also great.
That's one of our big goals is to make it more and more affordable. I just came out with our we're shipping this summer, but we are actually releasing a unit that is able to produce up to 25 gallons of water a day just from the air. And that unit will be $3,000 and can support all of the water needs for your entire family. and all you got to do is plug it into the wall. That's it. You don't even need to do any installation or anything.
This is really incredible. Like really, really incredible.
Wow.
And this year works year round?
I'm sorry?
Any time of year? It works year round? Any time of year, any weather?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. So the technology is dependent on the availability of water in the air, right? So there are some restrictions if there's not really any water in the air. And it's going to be very difficult for us to produce water. Or if you're straight up in the desert, and there's like 5% humidity, also it's going to be very difficult for us to produce water. So what we need is at least 25% relative humidity. Actually, that's a great question that a lot of people ask is like, across, like, where can I use it? So pretty much the rule of thumb here is like, unless it's a desert and it's freezing, we need 25% above and it works. So even a place like, we consider to be dry, Los Angeles, no problem. Parts of Texas that are considered very dry, not a problem. As long as it's not under 25% humidity, which is pretty dry. All of the above, we'll produce a good amount of water.
Wow. This is incredible. So I'm from Flint, Michigan, and I have a pretty interesting relationship with water. Luckily, I personally wasn't living in Flint when all the corruption and crazy stuff went down, which we won't get into. We actually have talked about in a previous podcast. But my parents were, and their well actually like broke, and they had to live off a big tank in the side of their house. Like they had to, and a lot of people were living just taking showers out of plastic water bottles, and it was super tough. Yeah, because it was so lead contaminated. Essentially what happened was corrupt government switched a water supply for pennies on the dollar, and the new water supply eroded the buildup of minerals in the pipes, and the pipes were lead, and they ended up poisoning basically the entire city of Flint with lead in the water, a lot of lead in the water. And people are still afraid to drink their tap water. And even though they say it's better and they're doing a crazy amount of infrastructure updating, right, it's still not enough. It's really scary. Lead doesn't leave our bodies. This is a solution. This is a potential solution, because there are a lot of cities around the world, a lot of cities, especially in the United States, the pipes are lead, and that all has to change. And what do they do when it's changing? Where do they get their water from? Like you're saying, you're offering another option, and it's amazing. That's really cool.
It's crazy, but the American Society of Civil Engineers actually rates our own water system as D-. We have terrible water infrastructure. And I think, Flint is a name that, people definitely remember. But how about like, Jackson, Mississippi, right? That was just last year. I think it was just about a year ago, right? Or entirety of the communities up and down. Like there's so many examples of this.
There's a lot. Yeah. And your product, like Aquaria, sidesteps all of that, at least, in a way that makes it possible for an infrastructure change without the crazy amount of plastic waste that it would take,
Yep, we are giving control back to you. That's how we think about it, is that, right now, well, what can you do about your water, right? Like you can dig a well, which it's increasingly becoming not dependable. It's getting deeper. It's like a slippery slope. The more you draw, the less water there is, which means you got to go deeper, which costs more, and it's like a vicious cycle over there. Other than that, then you just got to wait for your local government or, your local developer to gain something about your water supply. We want to give you an option that is, fast, affordable, dependable. Again, this is something that you should be able to help yourself with. Get some water. sounds pretty straightforward, but this is our mission. It's to safeguard your access to water.
I think I saw something on your website as well that touched on said there are some states that regulate collecting rainwater, and your product actually, because it's not technically rainwater, it it is unaffected by any of these kind of regulations. Is that right?
So we are collecting air. We're not collecting rainwater, right?
Right.
Directly.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
that we're 100% not violating that because we're not. We're just collecting air. So on that front, we're not violating. And in fact, in other places like
No.
Hawaii, they're encouraging us. They're the ones that say, actually, you know what? We want to call you rainwater, and that way we'll fast track you to be able to develop even more of these. Um, because a lot of places right now are facing moratoriums in development because they can't show a source of water. But then it's also that they have a shortage of housing. So if you can't build more, but then you have a shortage of homes, what can you do? Well, the government then also wants to fast track you. So no, we're not violating anything. We're not collecting rainwater. We're collecting air, and that makes water. And we want to educate and help people understand that actually we're here. Aquaria is here today, and we can help provide the solution. This is not a science project. It's a cool concept, but we've already turned it into reality.
Yeah. And you said you're launching a new product, an at-home product this summer, right?
Correct. So far, what we've done, what Aquaria has focused on is providing. We've actually already built the first homes in the world whose entire water supply is from the air. So we've done these whole home system installations to help. And then now we're taking that downsize. That's what I was talking about before, is the home unit, inside home unit, where you can just plug it into the wall and it just starts making water. That's coming this summer.
Amazing. And it just collects it in a basin and then you just use it.
If I didn't tell you and you saw it, you probably just think it looks like a water cooler, like a fancy Apple design looking water cooler. Because you use it like a water cooler, you just dispense it like normal. So you're not supposed to think it looks aesthetically nice, but it's not like it doesn't look or used any differently than is how you would drink water normally. So inside the machine there is a tank. We actually run mineralization in it for taste. We continuously cycle it so that it's the highest quality drinking water, and then it's all stored in a tank inside the machine, so you can always drink it whenever you need it.
This makes me so happy. Like I love having people on, like, it just is so hopeful. It offers a real solution and actual hope to a problem that is very much on its way to being massively in our faces.
And I thank the both of you for allowing me to be here to tell our great audience what we're building, and that work on providing a more sustainable water option, and that they can find more about Aquaria. And this is my goal here.
Yeah. Speaking of, how can people find more about Aquaria? Where can we get a hold of you?
So I'm kind of one of those crazy people that don't really sleep. So if you really wanted to, you can find me on LinkedIn and just, hit me up. I'll answer you, no problem. But generally speaking, you can go on our website, which is aquaria.world, or find us on social media like YouTube or Instagram. We're there as well. So Aquaria, Aquaria. And so, yeah, that's how you can find us.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Super glad to be here.
Yes. I can't wait to find out more.
Yeah.
I'm actually reaches out to me on LinkedIn. I wonder if anyone will take me up on that offer.
And we're daring our entire audience right now to reach out to you, just to say, hi, we heard you on Environmental Podcast. Go sell Brian. Thank you for what he's doing.
Well, I will look for that.
A worldwide problem.
and then I'll email back, and when the episode is released, like, oh wow, I just got like 500, LinkedIn requests, and
We certainly hope so. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for staying tuned, for listening to our incredible guest, Brian Sheng, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye. Thanks everyone.
Bye. Bye.